So, in other words, a good critical essay should fulfil the following. It should say what the work is about, it should say what the effects of that are on you, and it should say how these effects have been produced. Now, again, it sounds very basic, but remember that this is English language, English literature that you're being examined on. And what you're trying to do here is you're showing the examiner that you know how a writer produces the effects that he produces. That's what English language is. That's what an English literature language exam is. You're saying, in close reading, you're reading a passage and you're saying, here's what the writer's doing, and here's how he's doing it. And an analogy would be a carpenter comes and makes a table. It's a beautiful table. He's very skilled. He's a craftsman. He's very skilled. Here's the table. Here's a description of the table. It's round. It's got fluted legs. It's got, I have no idea of any kind of technical terms for carpentry. It's beautiful to look at, and here's how he did it. Well, first of all, he got an anvil and he planed a piece of wood, and he did. Now I'm talking in very non-technical language here. And then he got a hammer and he hammered some nails into it, and he shaved bits off, and he shaped it, and he varnished it. The varnish, the plane, the anvil, they're the tools he used to get this beautiful table. A writer uses sentence structure, word choice, literary devices, figures of speech, alliteration, all these things. And what you're doing in an English exam is you're saying, here's the beautiful piece of writing, here's the writing, and here's how we did it. And in close reading, you're doing the same thing as you're doing in critical essay. You're just applying that same knowledge over into a more extended piece of work. And that's the way to think about it. This is your chance to show off your literary knowledge, your knowledge of how writers do what they do. And when I say writers, I'm meaning human beings, because we all speak and we all write. How do we do it? How do we go about choosing what words to keep in, what words to, they're just, it's not a secret. It's what you and I do every day, and you're showing off your knowledge. If you think about it that way, it takes away the kind of scary element of critical essays and even close reading. And also, a valid point, the transferable skills of both are very important. A lot of people seem to sort of close reading, critical essay, folio, and they don't transfer, they're all transferable. And you'll see that when you come to write in closer detail when we come further on in this. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that if you fulfil these three, what's the work about, what are the effects on me, and how have these effects been produced, and you answer the question, you will have a good critical essay. That's what you've got to do. Jump down. Okay, so the first thing you're faced with in the exam is the choice of question. And it's important that you take your time to read through the questions and establish which one is the best one for you. Now, I can't emphasise this enough. Do not jump into a question. Take your time. Read all of the questions and read them carefully. In order to choose the right question, you must be able to identify the demands of each question, and that takes a little bit of practice. Now, what we're doing here is we're going to look at the questions and see how the demands of the question are in the questions. Now, on your notes, I've got a question. Choose a novel or a short story which features a relationship between two characters which is confrontational or corrosive. Describe how the relationship is portrayed and discuss to what extent the nature of the relationship influences your understanding of the text as a whole. I've divided the question up into part 1, part 2 and part 3. Part 1, choose a novel or a short story which features a relationship between two characters which is confrontational or corrosive. Okay. If your novel or short story has such a relationship, you will immediately think, bingo, great, me, my question. And that's where people make mistakes, because they don't read on, and in actual fact there could be a more suitable question, because the task, the job for you to do is in part 2 and part 3. Part 1 is, if you like, the flag waving bit. Setting, theme, character. Here's a question on that. That's what the first part's about. It's telling you this question is on this subject. Here's what you have to do is part 2 and part 3. Now, describe how the relationship is portrayed and discuss to what extent the nature of the relationship influences your understanding of the text as a whole. 3 parts to the question. Part 2 and part 3 are the important bits. Okay? If you jump down a bit, the demands are the text you choose must have a corrosive confrontational relationship at its centre. Now it must. If you think you're going to get away with, you're not. It's got to have a confrontational relationship at its centre. That's kind of a given. That's an obvious. You'll be marked down if the examiner's thinking, no. But 2 and 3, how is it portrayed? In what ways do we see it as corrosive? And 3, how does the relationship affect how you view the rest of the novel? So you can see that the first part is the launching pad. And the demands of the question are part 2 and part 3. Okay. Now, what I've done here is we have got some, I've taken some more questions from past papers and break them up into the same thing as we've done there. Question 6. Choose a novel or short story in which the novelist makes use of more than one location. Discuss how the use of different locations allows the novelist to develop the central concerns of the text. Part 1, easy peasy. Choose a novel or short story in which the novelist makes use of more than one location. Okay. Discuss how the use of different locations allows the novelists to develop the central concerns of the text. Has that got 2 parts to it or 3? I would say it's got 3, because what you're being asked to do there is how the use of different locations. You have to say what the different locations are. You have to go into detail about the different locations and when the novel changes location and why. And how does it allow the novelist to develop the central concerns of the text? What are the central concerns of the text? If you don't address that, if you just write about the setting, you're not answering the question. So you won't do well. So there are 3 parts to that question there. Number 7, choose a novel in which a character experiences a moment of revelation. Describe briefly what is revealed and discuss its significance to your understanding of character and or theme. Okay. On the face of it, this is quite an easy question. A novel in which a character experiences a moment of revelation. Most books, most short stories. That's what short stories are. That's what novels are, aren't they? Really, basically, characters experience change. That's what a story is. A story is a character is like this at the beginning, something happens, characters like that at the end. They have an epiphany of some sort, albeit maybe very small in a short story, but they learn something, don't they? So, great. You read that, you think, me, mine. Describe briefly what is revealed. Part 2. Discuss its significance to your understanding of character and or theme. Again, on the face of it, it looks quite easy, but it's not. That's actually quite a tricky question. It's discuss its significance, the moment of revelation. So you're taking the key moment, the key incident in the book or book, and you're saying, how does that understand you? How does that moment, that incident, develop your understanding of the character? But you need to have a whole big chunk about the character before, and a whole big chunk about the character afterwards. You would also have to have a whole lot about the character in relation to other characters, how they interact.